Hey there, guys. It's Mike Goldstein with Crushing It with the Kitchen Remodeling podcast, where we take a deep dive and we look at the world of kitchen and bath remodeling and cabinetry businesses. Now, today, we have a very special guest with us, Dominic Rubino, a business coach who works with cabinet builders, millwork companies, among others, and he helps them improve their business and improve their profits. And one way he does this is really by helping teaching business owners how to estimate their remodeling projects, how to generate more profit while also being priced competitively in the market. And we're going to do that. We're going to talk to Dom, going to learn all about how to properly estimate in just one moment. We're going to do that just after this.
Are you looking for some fresh ideas to jumpstart your kitchen remodeling business? Welcome to the Crushing It with Kitchen Remodeling podcast. Your host, Michael Goldstein, founder of Kitchen Remodeling SEO, the digital marketing agency working exclusively with kitchen remodeling contractors, and also the author of the ultimate internet marketing guide for kitchen remodeling contractors, will provide insights on proven tips and strategies from top experts in this space so that you can take advantage of industry best practices. Your host, Michael Goldstein. Join Mike as he shares his knowledge each week with an insightful interview or educational segment about how to turn your online marketing efforts into more kitchen remodeling leads and sales opportunities than ever before.
And we're back. And we have with us today, like I said, one of the foremost experts in the business coaching world for those in the cabinet space, those in the millwork space, the home services space overall. We have the one, we have the only, the legend, the myth. We have Dominic Rubino with us. Dom,
well, I'm Mike. I'm good. Thank you. I'm glad to be on your show.
Oh, thank you so much for having us. I've had the pleasure of actually being on your show from time to time talking about SEO. Yeah. I'm so excited though to have you here to really educate my audience on really the right way to go about pricing their jobs, the right way to estimate so that they're not giving away the farm, but they're also not overestimating so much that they lose business.
Yeah.
But with all that said, you know what? I kind of gave you a little bit of an intro here, but for those of us who actually don't know who Dominic is, shame on you, by the way, if you don't, but for those who don't, Dom, who are you? What is it that you do?
So good question, Mike. Thanks. I don't know who I am anymore. No. Do you know what? I am a business owner, and I love working with other business owners to show them how to work smarter, not just harder. And Mike, you've been on my podcast, which is called, of all things, and nobody should be sipping their coffee right now because when you hear the title of the show, you're going to spit it out your nose. It's called Cabinet Maker Profit System. And it's pretty specific, but that's who I serve. I serve cabinet makers, architectural millworkers, people in the closet industry, furniture makers, anybody in finished wood trades. And then I have another podcast. I've got two because, why not? The other podcast is called Profit Tool Belt. And what's interesting is I know you deal with a lot of home renovations experts, guys that do kitchen remodeling. They'll listen to both podcasts because they get different guests and different experiences. But that's what I do in the world and that's the little space on the wall I occupy. I work with business owners who want to learn how to work smarter, not just harder all the time.
Well, that's great. And there's so many of our audience who I think fall right into that niche. So I think you're just the perfect person to talk about this, where you've been there, done that in terms of being a business owner. You've done that now from an outside third-party view as a coach. So let me ask you, when you're talking to your clients, when you're talking to people who you're trying to teach and coach and help them expand their business, how do you help your clients strike a balance between generating profits and pricing competitively in the marketplace?
Well, that's a really good question because the only person that has that answer is the marketplace.
Sure.
Right? Sure. And so one of the things that we look, right, you only know if you've priced high if the world is telling you that. Now, there are some things we have to watch for because, of course, when we're dealing with homeowners, let's assume that we're speaking right now to the residential market, not the commercial one. People are going to come back and say, well, you're out to lunch. Your price is way higher. I could get the same product at IKEA or I could get some. We're not talking about apples to apples there, right? But if you price yourself and you're winning every reasonable deal you're in front of, you're priced too low. if you're winning 80% of the jobs you're in front of, you're simply priced too low. It means you've got room to raise your prices. Now, can I just add one more thing, Mike?
Oh, please.
Do you know who gives me the most grief about raising prices? Do you think it's the consumers, or do you think it's the business owners?
Oh, it's for sure going to be the business owners because they're afraid they're not going to get a job.
That's right. They're afraid they're not going to get a job. And right now, as you know, and I think everybody else listening knows, there's just never been a better time to be in our trade. Hands down. Hands down, in the history of kitchen cabinets, in the history of remodeling, never been a better time to be in the business. And so right now is the time to push the boundaries and try increasing your prices a little bit and see what happens. And if people still buy that, then you look around and you go, well, that worked. Do it again.
It's funny you say that. I was having a conversation with a client of mine who's in the flooring space just the other day, and I was asking him about his profit margins. Well, I mean they're not great, but I'm getting lots of work. I said, well, what's your close rate? And he said, well, I'm closing about 85%. I said, 85%. Well, let me ask you this: do you think maybe if you raise your prices a little bit, that maybe your profit margins would go up? Yeah, but I'll lose work. And I asked him a really simple question. I said, and let's just take an extreme example. If you double your price tomorrow and you only close half as much business, what happens to your profit margin? Well, it goes up. And what happens to the amount of money that you have coming in, the revenue? But it doesn't change. So why would I want that? And sometimes you got to get through your head. Just because the revenue isn't changing, you're only doing half as much work to make the same amount of money. So now if you can do the same amount of work, your revenue is gonna double.
This is actually why you've been on my podcast a couple of times, because this is the level of business owner conversation that I find people crave. Right? Because when let's just use and just say that the trade is cabinetry. It doesn't matter if it's closets, architecture, millwork, or renovating. Just say cabinetry for a second. We tend to get ourselves in the mindset, well, I'm a cabinet maker, I'm a really good cabinet maker, I want to learn more about the tools for cabinetry, and there's this trick I learned, and you get into the technical side, but you forget that you're actually a business person who just happens to be a cabinet maker. And that's why you and I can come along with the perspective of, hey, listen, let's take a step back and look at what you're really trying to accomplish here. You're not actually trying to build cabinets, you're trying to run a company that builds cabinets and gets paid for that. And who wouldn't want to do less work for more pay?
Yeah, I mean, that's so on point. What I always ask people is, what business are you in? And they tell me, oh, I'm a kitchen remodeler, I'm a cabinet. I said, no, you're a marketer. You happen to sell kitchen remodeling services.
Right.
You're in the business of marketing. And and sometimes it's great when you see that light bulb go off and think, you're right.
Hey, can I just be a little bit? I want people to remember this. When we talked about conversion rates, you said that flooring gentleman has an 85% conversion rate, right? So that's like, if people don't understand the word conversion rate, that's cool. I could explain it using a baseball analogy. It's like at bats, right? You got a 30% if you hit 3 out of 10. So if you sell 8.5 out of 10 deals you're in front of, you're an incredible athlete, and you walk around thinking you're the best. Well, but you're playing against a kid's softball team, right? Or you're doing something wrong in your business. And so I want to challenge everybody out there who's got a high conversion rate, who's saying, you don't understand. Dominic, you're full of it. Mike, you don't understand. I want you to think about any other industry that has a conversion rate of around 100%. That's drug dealers and you know what.
Yep.
So aside from anything illegal, no other industry has conversion rates of 100%. You shouldn't be aiming for that. You need to go back. You're either leaving money on the table or you're doing something wrong.
Yep, I think that makes a lot of sense. And taking that kind of looking at the industry that you service more than any others, looking at cabinet makers, cabinet builders, millwork companies, what are some of the most common mistakes that you see them making when they're estimating projects?
Well, first of all, right now, I said this is the best time in the world ever to be in the cabinetry industry. Everybody's busy. And if you're not busy, I apologize, but a lot of people are super, super busy now. And so they're trying to answer every single bid request that comes in without top grading them, without saying, well, not all requests are created equal, right? I need to put my focus and energy into the jobs that line up with how my shop is set up, what I really love doing and I can do profitably, how my people are trained, and what we can deliver and install. I know some people do supply only, but you know what I mean? All of those things have to line up as if you're lining down a rifle barrel. And if they don't, if that job that you're looking at right now doesn't line up perfectly, don't estimate it, or at least don't estimate it first. There's a time when you've got to put everything down, go home and hug your wife and kiss your kids. So spend the time on the profitable jobs, which, I've got, obviously as a business coach, we have systems around that. You've got to figure out what those jobs are. But once you do, focus on those and ignore the rest with confidence.
That makes a lot of sense. And at the end of the day, what do mistakes mean? The mistakes mean that you left money on the table. So taking the mistakes, kind of aside, when you're working with people who are going to go out to someone's home, when they're or they have been someone come into the showroom and whatnot, what are some of the key factors that you think that kitchen remodelers and cabinet builders should be considering when they're estimating those remodeling projects? What the things that outside of just the obvious, what does it cost? What is my labor cost? What is my material cost?
Yeah.
What are the other key factors?
I'm going to take this in a direction you didn't expect. If you're going out to somebody, is that okay?
Yeah, please.
Because time management is such a big thing, right? You're a business owner. You're literally not juggling all the balls. You're juggling chisels, sharp things, right? There's so much on the table. So first of all, I want you to make sure you're going to the right opportunities. What does the right opportunity look like? Well, number one, you're talking to the decision maker. And number two, all decision makers have to be present. So let me just use a modern, what we're just going to generalize this, a husband and wife couple. If I go to an appointment where only the wife is there or only the husband is there, I'm probably not going to win that deal. I need both decision makers there, understanding that one person's a decision maker and one's an influencer. And anybody that has a piece of paper in front of them, please write that down. There's a decision maker and there's an influencer. And if you really want to get a laugh out of this, think about your own house. Think about when you and your wife or you and your husband are sitting there making a decision on travel or some other trade. One of you's the decision maker, the other one's the influencer. It's the same when you walk into that house. So make sure you have that down. Mike, it sounds like you had a point there.
No, I was just thinking. So what you're saying is make sure the wife is there and the influencer is there.
Well, clearly you are a fly on the wall at my house. Yeah. But you have to make sure of that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this though, because this I think is a question that a lot of people would come back with. They say, okay, I prepped, I have all my information, I got my books, I'm ready to go, I'm all pumped up. I get there and only the husband is there. What do you do then? Do you say, I'm sorry, do you turn around? What is it that you do in order to prep the people to make sure that they're going to be there?
Yeah. So that's a judgment call that you have to make on the spot. But let's say that only the husband there is, the wife isn't there. So we're now talking about the sales qualification process, which is not where everybody thought I was going on that answer, right? But if we look back at the core issue of the problem, if you're working too hard for the money you're making, let's go find a way for you to work smarter, right? So now we're in the sales qualification part of the conversation. So the situation's in front of us where only the husband's there, the wife's not there for 100 normal reasons, right? She's doing something else with the kids or she's got to go take care of her own family. So have that conversation, but find a reason. Find a reason to come back when the wife will be there, or you're not going to win that deal. Now, I do have to put a little star above this. Do you want that deal? Like, is it the right kind of, not all deals are the same. But if you love doing $80,000 custom kitchens, or if you love doing $40,000, whatever your number is, it doesn't matter. There's no better or worse, right? But if that job is your job, like you could do that job all day, you make money, you love doing it, you feel proud doing it, that's the job you want, then go back, find a reason to come back and say, you know what, I'm going to sketch out some initial plans, but your wife, Cindy, she really needs to see this because I want to make sure I got some things right. There's questions that you and I might answer that she needs some perspective on. So I'll say to the husband, what does the calendar look like within 3 days? I don't know if anybody can see me.
Oh, yeah.
Mike, why do I say I have to be back in their house in 3 days? Why would that be important?
Well, they're going to lose that emotional, need to, it's no different than when you're running an ad and someone clicks on that ad, you got 5 minutes. If you don't talk to someone in 5 minutes, you've lost them. It's the same thing here.
Yeah. And so the saying in professional sales is this: time kills deals.
Absolutely.
Time kills deals. There's a reason somebody's asking you for, this quote on their kitchen cabinet. They're not window shopping for kitchen cabinets. People don't window shop for windows either. But you got to keep that momentum going.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yes, it's not an impulse buy. We're not selling candy bars.
Right. Yeah. So get in front of them in 3 days so that you can review an initial set of plans. And I know you're restarting the sale, but if you want that deal, that's how you get it.
Yeah. And I actually have one particular client who does this really, really well. And what they do is when that situation does happen, is they come, okay, so we're here for our measurement meeting. And they come in and they take all the measurements and say, this is fantastic. All right, so we need to reschedule to come out. We're going to go back. We're going to put something, we're going to put this together for you and come and make a presentation now that we have your measurements so we can look at the material cost and all that to make sure you're getting, that is genius, right?
That is genius. So they've changed the playing field. They show up, not all decision makers are there, or maybe the kids are sick or there's an emergency. Things happen. But then you change the outcome of the meeting and you say, perfect. We only need 15 minutes for a quick tour. I'll do some measurements and we'll arrange another time. But you find a reason to come back. I want to serve these people as best I can. I can't do it standing on one leg. I have to have a solid foundation. Yeah.
For sure. So one of the things, though, that I think people also look at a lot when they're estimating jobs is kind of obviously the profit, is how much money am I going to make on this? And something that I don't think it comes up as much now as it did during the pandemic, but prices do fluctuate, not as quickly, I don't think now. But what do you tell your people when they're estimating? How do you account for unexpected expenses that might arise during the project to ensure that your profit margin is still profitable?
So you have to look at profit as an expense.
Now, I sense that you've read Profit First.
Yeah, that's a Profit First thing. Actually, Mike Michalowicz has been on my show as well. So there's actually a calculator that I take my clients through. Like, it's a 1-page chart. You fill in a bunch of boxes, and out of the bottom spits the number. And that number is what it costs you to flick on the lights in your company January 1st at 8:01. What does it cost per hour to run your business? But what it includes are things that people typically overlook. And I want to make sure that as long as you do this exercise once a year, you're up to date. But you got to include things like the burden rate. You and I might think we're paying somebody, I'll just pick a number, to $25 an hour, just whatever. Well, I'm actually not paying him or her $25 an hour because there's the soft costs associated with that person. That has to go into your pricing. But the other one that has to go into your pricing is what net profit do you want at the end of the year? And so I have a really simple calculator. If anybody wants it, I can share it. But it's a simple calculator. You just fill in the little boxes, and out of the bottom spits your number. And your number is going to be $95 or $110 or $82, whatever your number is. But as long as you calculate your overheads, including labor, including profits, using that number on a per hour basis, then you're on the right path. Now, obviously, you've got to do materials, which is the problem that we had during the pandemic, is material prices were fluctuating, and we had to have clauses like substitution or because things were late or not available. But you've got those costs, and then you got materials, off you go.
So it's interesting that you bring up two things right now that obviously come into every job, which are materials and labor. And what is it? What am I paying hourly? What am I paying for materials? Yeah. What do you say to people though who are in, and let's go a little further outside the cabinet space into the pure home remodeling, kitchen remodeling, an industry where typically we're estimating a job that isn't even going to start for 3 to 6 months, and then once you start it, it might take another 5 months to complete. How do you take into account the likelihood that your labor cost is going to change, that your material cost is going to change between now, and let's say, right now it's May 10th, something like that. And you're probably not going to finish that job until sometime in December, maybe January of 2024.
Yeah.
What is the best practice that you give people when they're estimating that material cost in that respect?
It's so funny you asked that question. Just this week, one of my coaching meetings was a 3, 3, and 3 home renovator. So a 3, 3, and 3 home renovator is we're going to sell 3 deals this week or this month. We're going to start 3 jobs this month. We're going to end 3 jobs this month. It's a simple metric that I use. So it helps me define how we're going to help them go through their growth path, right? Now, they didn't start as a 3, 3, 3. They started as like a 1, 0, don't know, right? Truthfully, because the owners of that business just built it out of pure workout, like will and determination.
Yeah.
It takes a while to get there, but what we used to get there was tracking really simple, basic numbers. And just let me add this. I'm not talking about tracking accounting numbers. If you call accounting a category, then that category would only be one number. There's a bunch of other categories we have to track. They're really simple to track, but you can't track everything. You have to know what to ignore. You have to know what to focus on, and that gets you the growth path.
Sure. And when you're looking at this too, I mean, one of the other things I know, going back to what we talked about kind of at the beginning of this, is pricing in order to to close, and you want to price obviously competitively, but at the same time, you don't want to price yourself out of a job, and you don't want to price yourself out of the market.
Yeah.
So, what do you advise clients on pricing their services to remain competitive in a really crowded marketplace, where you're not the only game in town?
Yeah, you are. I'm sorry, but you are. You want to know why you are?
Why is
Just do this as a test at your own home right now. Go call a tradesperson and ask them to come by and give you a price. First, they're probably not going to show up. If they give you a price, it's going to be on the back of the back of a business card. It's going to look like you know what.
Yep.
And so when a homeowner says to me, because I've been in the trades too, right? That's how I think we all started there. Dominic, thank you very much for your price. We're going to talk to 2 other companies so that we get a really good sense of what the price is going to be. And in the beginning, oh my God, they're going to price me, so I better price this to win it. And then what I found out is I was getting phone calls back. Hi, Dominic. Yeah, can you come by again and have another look? I'm like, oh, what happened to the other 2 guys? Yeah, they didn't show up. Yeah. So
Yeah.
You know what? You are the only provider in the market who cares enough to have a process. So let me start there, right? But the other thing you could do, if you truly are worried, it's going to cause more work for you, which is not what I want. But you can give people a good, better, best option. Now, people listening are like, look, Rubino, we've been through this. I'm already busy. Now you want me to price 3 different ways? No, I don't. I said you could give people a good, better, best option. So Mr. Goldstein, Mr. and Mrs. Goldstein, what a lovely home. I understand why you want to do a reno or cabinets. Can I just ask you, have you had friends who've done a kitchen renovation that looks like what you're going to do? And you're either going to say yes or no. So choose one of the answers, Mike.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Who was it that did a kitchen reno?
The Smiths.
The Smiths. Oh, a neighbor of yours here? Same neighborhood?
Absolutely, right down the street.
Oh, fantastic. I don't know them, but do you know what they spent on their reno?
As a matter of fact, I do. They spent about $40,000.
Okay, 40. Let me ask you, Mike, does 40 seem high to you, low to you, or just about right?
I thought that was a little low, to be honest.
Yeah. Did you see the quality of the finish they had there? Like, how did that make you feel?
Now that you mention it, it was a little shabby. It didn't really speak to me.
What since we're having this discussion, what didn't you like about their reno? Maybe I can take that as notes.
You know what? And that's.
And then Mike's going to give me 1, 2, 3. We're going to have a nice discussion around that. Do you see what we just did there?
Yeah.
It's called bracketing. It's called bracketing. So I found out from Mike what he thought was reasonable. It's 40 grand. Now let's do the same thing where you don't know. We're going to do that same demo again, guys, or role play. And in this case, Mike's going to say he doesn't have a friend. He doesn't know anybody. He has no idea on the pricing, except truthfully he does, and we're going to find out in 10 seconds. So let's start the role play.
Sure.
Hey, Mike, as we're looking at this job, can you just give me a sense of what you think the budget's going to be for this?
I really have no idea. I'm just looking for a fair price.
Yeah, I guess that's true. When was the last time you did a kitchen reno?
Never.
Never, right? Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I do them all the time, but that's a totally fair answer. So let me ask you this. In your mind or in your heart, where do you think this is going to fall? Is this a $3,000 job, a $30,000 job, or a $300,000 job?
I would think it's probably a $30,000 job. I mean, that seems fair to me.
Yeah. And then, okay, so we're in that kind of range. And then in the $30,000 job, do you want like premium, or are we just trying to build a basement suite for somebody? Like, where do you want to be on the higher end of 30, low end of 40? Do you want to be on the low end of 20, 25? Where do we need to be?
I want to make sure that it looks nice. That's, the money right now is, I don't know what it's worth. I know that I don't want to pay more than I have to.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I don't want to build more than we have to. But you also don't want me coming back and saying, Mike Goldstein, here is a $300,000 kitchen reno. And now we've wasted everybody's time. But if I'm understanding you right, it's got to be in that 30 to maybe 40, and it better be really nice to be 45. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let's see what we come up. I don't even know yet. We're taking measurements today.
Fantastic.
And there you go. So now, I'm sorry, Mike, I cut you off. Say it again.
No, I said that. Let's get started and let's see what price.
Let's see where we go. So let me stop. Do you think that is what the audience is looking for in that answer, that kind of direction?
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is, I think you're showing people it's estimating is not just giving a number. It's not just looking at a spreadsheet, but it's sales. And at the end of the day, you can come in just like what I do with marketing. When I come in, I can say, listen, I can build you $1 million website, but if I don't have anybody come to that, who cares about your $1 million site? Well, it's the same thing with homes. Listen, I can build you $1 million home, but you don't really want $1 million home. You want to show off $1 million home. So
yeah.
And now you start getting them thinking about, I want to be the envy of the neighbor, or I don't care about these people. I just want to have something that's comfortable. Just give me a bottom line price. And the more you get to know your client, the more you get to know your customer, I think.
Yeah. Well, and this does go to the, we're calling this the sales process, but I'd like everybody to remember this is actually the process for helping somebody buy, because sales is something I do to you. Buying is something that we do together. So Mike, you hit on something so critically important, and it's such a simple question. I want everybody to write this down, even though you can remember it if you're walking your dog listening to this. The question is why. So if I come into your house, Mike, and you say, hey, we need new kitchen cabinets, I'm going to look around. I'm going to go, do you mind if I just ask you a question? It's going to sound dumb. Why? You have kitchen cabinets.
Right.
And then one of the two, maybe the husband or the wife's going to go, are you kidding me? Or it's about time. Or we finally deserve this. Or they're going to say something. Yeah, why? And now I have to say, well, why do you finally deserve this? Or why do you need this basement suite renovated? And then you hear, my mother-in-law's moving in. And then you lock your heels to the ground and you say, what is your mother-in-law going to expect out of this kitchen in the basement? Mm-hmm. It's no longer about the cabinets, is it?
No, it's about the life situation. And it's
yeah.
What is this? The 7 Whys? Is that the book I think I read at one point?
Yeah. Yeah, so you nailed it, Mike. It's why do you want to do this? Do I have an ego that I have to have a better kitchen than the Smiths or whatever, right? But I need to know that. Yeah.
Sure. So let's bring it back just for a minute, Don, if I can, to back into pricing, because at the end of the day, the pricing still is what's going to affect the profit margin. And right. for our audience here, honestly, what they really care about is how much money are they making, what's going into their pocket, not the vanity, how much money do I show, or what do I get? Yeah. So, if we can, what strategies are you talking to your people about, right now, to help them keep their costs down without sacrificing the quality or without sacrificing their profit margins?
It's such a good question, because when I start with a new client, it's a different conversation than when we have momentum, and then it's a different question when they really want to grow and scale. But one of the very first things I do with people is, I know this is going to sound boring, but I've got to say it, is we go back and we do a line-by-line review of the overheads. And now people go, Dom, we just looked at the overheads. No big deal. Yeah, but did you do it with somebody who is, a business coach cares, but they're seeing the forest, not the trees, right? But you find the craziest things in the overheads. Like, you're still paying for a cell phone from somebody you let go 3 years ago. Well, the cell phone company's not calling you, right? It's like the gym membership in your wallet. Like, I'll go next month. Anyways, we find things. So we have to know the overheads, because we can't figure out where to save money until we know where we're spending the money. The other thing I have to add, and this is a soft one that has a hard implication, is quite often, especially in manufacturing like we're doing, is we're wasting time in the shop, and that costs money, or quality issues, or is causing go backs, or sending out incomplete product, like the kicks don't go out with everything else. What a waste of time and money. And so there's lots of little, I call them finding and fixing your 8 profit leaks. But there's a lot of opportunities that can be uncovered.
Right. And when you're looking at those profit leaks, one of the other things I find is that people set their prices and then they kind of take that set it and forget it approach. But how do you recommend that people you adjust your prices as the market changes over time? Because that I think is one of the biggest things. I mean, right now we look at inflation. The cost of spaghetti sauce went up. Why shouldn't the cost of home remodeling, go up at least at that same level?
Right. Yeah. Now, listen, when it comes to pricing, you have to do something that's called questioning your estimating assumptions, which I get it sounds totally boring. I mean, I'm here to make it sound more exciting and to build a little mini project about it. But you're right. We have to question the assumptions that go into our estimating because things happen. The cost of phenolic goes up. The cost of adhesives, the cost of abrasives, maybe they go down. Maybe the best company with the best price, vendor, is not actually giving us the best service, and that's causing us to have to send our guys over to, I'll just say Home Depot. You have to send somebody off to bring the stuff back. Well, so your actual cost isn't right. So of course you're not making money because you're wasting time and you're wasting energy and it's burning your heart.
That makes a ton of sense to me. And, I think it should to everyone who's listening here. And Don, you've really given us a lot to think about today. You dropped just some real knowledge bombs on us. For those people who are listening, and maybe you're in the market for a business coach. Maybe you realize that you need that outside person to come and take a look and tell you, not what you're doing wrong, but telling you where there are opportunities.
Yeah.
How would someone get a hold of you? Where do they find you?
Sure. Yeah, and you're right, Mike. Nobody's doing anything wrong. We're just trying to find ways to do things better. So the good news is, if you can't find me on the internet, you're not looking. But you can go to the website, which is cabinetmakerprofitsystem.com, and go to the podcast /podcast and just look it up. You can also look up my name, Dominic Rubino, and you'll find all of my social. You can find me through Mike's website. Mike's been on my show how many times now, Mike? 2?
At least 3.
Maybe 3. Yeah, you've been on there a bunch because you're my go-to guy for SEO in this industry. And by the way, I'm going to plug Mike here. Every person I refer to Mike gets the results. So that's why we keep being on each other's shows, because when it works, keep using it, right?
Sure. And now, I know you've talked a lot about kind of estimating. Do you have any kind of documentation or something? You talked a little bit about the calculator before.
Yeah,
Anything
we talked about that.
My listeners
That's a 1-page download. If somebody wants it from me, just text me. The easiest way to get me, Mike, is text me. So text me if you want. It's called the Go Back Report. There you go, Mike. Just put it on the screen. It's called the Go Back Report. So just send me a text message to 315-908-7853 and just say the word Go Back. If you say the word Go Back, then I know what you're asking for. You're asking for the Go Back Report, which has 2 names. It's actually called the Go Back or the 1-hour calculator. That's where we figure out your profit margins, your labor rate, your burden rate, your overheads, all of the things that go into estimating, plus materials. And materials are going to fluctuate as they need to because this guy wants walnut and this guy wants melamine. Doesn't matter. That's just how you build your pricing. But once you have the Go Back Report, I call it pricing for profits with clarity.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, again, I want to thank you for for the offer to my listeners. That's really very generous of you. But beyond that, just for all the information that you've shared with us. I feel like myself as well as everyone here that we've gone to a little certification course on how to price properly. And
Thank you.
We're all ready to go out there and now increase our prices. We're getting ready to look at our expenses. We're getting ready to listen to why somebody wants to have a new kitchen, why they want to have new cabinets.
Yeah.
We now know that we don't go out unless both decision makers, or at least all decision makers, have to be there. You like I said, you've really dropped some great knowledge bombs. So for those of you who found interest in this, please please share this video. Please share this with your friends. But next week, if you tune in, we're gonna have another great session. We're gonna be talking actually about Facebook ads and how to create a targeted audience. We're gonna be talking with Josh Wheeler, who is one of the foremost experts in Facebook ads, and to be perfectly blunt and transparent, one of my business partners. So I let people know that. But Dom, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. Going to have you come back, very soon and learn a whole lot more about just how to make those businesses much more efficient.
I love it. Anytime, Mike. I'm here to help. Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right. Bye, everybody.